You're listening to the Screaming Pods Network.
Something's coming.
Stand by. Hold on to your hats, here we go.
I just actually logged on 1 second. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Alright. Can you hear me well now? Yeah. Sounds good. I'm speaking through my expensive headset. Turtle Beaches. Yeah. It's a gaming for video games. But it works for this too. Alright. Beasley, go lay down. Something sounded really weird. I mean, I've been watching movies since the beginning of the year, and we've only had like 3 shows. I'm just going to talk about what I can't, like, what would be fun to talk about. I watch a lot of movies now. Jesus, I've watched so much shit. Oh my god. Well, I've watched a lot of shit too, yeah. Well, I'll talk about some of the shit because it'll be fun to shit on it. Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's like, yeah, it's like, but yeah, it's
Holy cow, I almost forgot.
We'll get the door.
Gonna be fun to talk about some of this bullshit. Wish Sean was here so I could fucking talk shit about scary stories. Yeah, he really liked it. I thought it was fucking bullshit. Alright. How do you look for headphones? Like, I have 16,000 fucking pairs of headphones through my house. Like, I have like 3 gaming headsets. I have fucking workout headphones, like 3 pairs. Janice has a bunch of pairs for audiobooks at night. She even has those fucking that headband that you put on, and it actually will like Bluetooth it, so she listens to audiobooks with this headband, so you can go out and like work out with it and you can hear everything, but you just don't wear headphones. Yeah, earbuds hurt my ears for the most part because they're just always weird, like how they fit, and then I don't want to wear headphones like to the gym or something because then that part gets really sweaty. They actually have these badass, I saw them at Best Buy the other day, and you can't even hear them. Like when you turn it up, you can only hear them when you put them on, and it's sunglasses. And the way they're designed, it's quiet around you, but you can hear the music really well when you have them on. It's insane. I'll wait till someone does a knockoff. Ooh, I can do that. What is this? That part gets really sweaty. Can you see that laughing? In this? Can you see those emojis? Can you see? What is that? What was that old commercial, Just for Men?
Hold it. This isn't you, it's an older guy. Oh, that was before I got rid of my gray hair with Just for Men hair color.
Come on, that's too natural to be hair coloring.
Just for Men.
I thought there was like a shampoo or something that was like Just for Men. Is that like a brand, Just for Men? Is that actually what it is? Ugh, I don't even know. If I start to ramble, which I think I'm the rambler, just like put a little comment in there, say shut the fuck up or something like that, and I'll wrap it up. All right. Jesus. I've been up since 6, so I'm fucking ready. All right. Once Upon a Hollywood.
To my right is Bounty Law Series lead and Jake Cahill himself, Rick Dalton. And to my left is Rick's stunt double, Cliff Booth. So, Rick, explain to the audience exactly what it is a stunt double does.
Actors are required to do a lot of dangerous stuff. Cliff here is meant to help carry the load.
Is that how you describe your job, Cliff?
What, carrying his load? Yeah, it's about right.
Yeah, I'm always the Cliff because I will take that bullet for you, you know. And then, but I'll get shot in a fucking heartbeat because I don't have a Cliff to protect me. You know what I'm saying? This is just going to get really depressing. But all right, so no, I don't think I don't think he's the best character ever written, but I think it is one of my most. You know, I love that character. I love that relationship between Rick and Cliff. And I was just a huge fan of the film. And I've literally thought about it every day since I've seen it. I thought it was very funny. I do think that Cliff killed his wife. I thought it was very funny, and I definitely laughed, and I don't hold it against Cliff. But I was really glad that scene ended because I was annoyed by her. Apparently that's Rebecca Gayheart, so like yeah, she fucking deserved it. She killed somebody. Stop worrying about the orbs. Oh no, when that happened. Because at first I thought that Rick was on that set talking to the stunt guy about him. And the scene just goes on and on and on. And then it ends. And then Brad Pitt's on the roof again. And I'm like, holy shit, that's fucking funny as... That's like literally, I think, my favorite moment in the film. Or I guess one of my favorites. There's just so many. But one of my favorite moments is when you like. I felt like it was a gag to the audience too. Like, holy shit, we sat there that whole time, and it was actually just a flashback, and it was just a simple little shrug. Like he comes to the realization of why he's not allowed on the set. You know, I think it's really funny.
My hands are registered as lethal weapons. We get into a fight, I accidentally kill you. I go to jail.
Anybody accidentally kills anybody in a fight, they go to jail. It's called manslaughter.
Okay. And I think that's the funniest gag because it just transitions to what you think is Cliff on set, you know, trying to get Rick a job, and I think that's Rick on set trying to get Cliff a job. But yeah, no, it works. I think many things obviously work in the film, and it's going to be one of those things that slowly climbs to the top of my Tarantino. But also at the same time, like, yes, it is a Tarantino movie. It feels like a Tarantino movie, but this is the least Tarantino film that it feels like the least Tarantino-esque of them all to me. Like, there are certain aspects of it that, like, make it come to the point of, you know, it's a Tarantino film, but it really doesn't, because there is that heart. Like, in it. There's moments in the film that I teared up pretty hard. I've never done that in a Tarantino film. I love Tarantino movies, but there was a lot of I felt kind of respect in a sense, like also the fairy tale aspect to it. Like, it was funny because at the end when Sharon Tate hugs Rick Dalton, and I was like, oh, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now I get it. It all clicked, and I was like, that's actually really, really sweet, and then I started getting a little teary-eyed again at the end. What could have been. And a lot of people were like, oh, he's just, recycling what he did with Inglourious Bastards. And I'm like, no, not really. I don't, yeah, it had that moment where there's that switch in history, but also it was kind of like a more respectful idea behind it. But anyways, it really hit me. I mean, I think it's just one of those things where, Tarantino has a fascination and love for older films, and that was a big tragedy. And, it was, I think it was with the most respect he could have done to someone. He's mentioned Sharon Tate a few times through interviews and stuff like that in her films. And I think it's just his way of kind of paying respect to it, but also kind of creating. He really wanted to make a movie about those times, but make something a little more interesting, putting fictional characters in it, so he can kind of play and do what he wants. Because no one ever went to the fucking Spawn Ranch and did that shit. So I think. Okay, so here's that, is that I took Willow to go see it. So, and she has no idea who at the time had no idea who Charles Manson was, and had no idea about those murders. And all I told her before we went, I said, you're going to see a movie that's based, because I didn't know how. I basically did not know what I was going to fucking see that night, and I was so happy because the trailer was great because it really didn't allude to anything. I just knew that the Manson murder, Sharon Tate was going to be there, Manson was in it, so it's got to focus somewhere around there. But I really had no idea what I was going to go see, and so I just told Willow, I said, a lot of these people in this film are real. They're real people. And some bad stuff happened around them. And I said, you'll hear these names, Tate, Polanski. I said, I imagine Steve McQueen will show up somewhere in the movie. And I was right. Yeah. I knew, because of the relationship between everybody, I knew that fucking McQueen was going to pop up somewhere. Bruce Lee, stuff like that. And I just said there was something really bad that happened around that time. And so Willow had no idea. And she cheered during the murder sequence. Brandy taking down the intruders. Which, yeah, it does. There is a complete shift in the movie, but then it wraps right back around when the flamethrower erupts out. Because then it becomes Once Upon Hollywood again. But it really does become something else for a few moments. But it's really great, and I also love how another thing with respect to Tarantino, looking at the time, is that nothing is glorified with the Manson family. They're all pieces of shit. They're all dirty. They're all fucking bumbling idiots. And the way that they scream and cry during the murder sequence just shows of how pathetic they really were. And that's what I like about it. I really like how, a lot of people were like, oh, it was really annoying she was screaming. No, it was showing how much of a fucking pussy she was. Actually targeting somebody that's fucking if you did, I know that's an actress portraying somebody, but at the same time is how pathetic it is to engage in murder people. That was just, especially Sharon Tate. I like how it didn't glorify or make them badasses or, scary at all. I was never scared of them. I was more or less thinking like, man, what is going to happen? Is Cliff going to walk in and like hear screaming up at the, the Tate house? Are they going to actually fucking attack Rick and, his wife? And then Cliff's going to come in. I was so fucking nervous. Like, oh yeah, that's the thing. I was like, man, he's completely out of his fucking element. Yeah, because when he talks about the acid cigarette, I was like, oh my god, that's going to come into play later. And now this whole movie's going to fucking fall apart. And I'm so fucking nervous over that fucking cigarette, And it happens, he smokes, and I'm like, man, he's going to be out of his fucking element. Like, something bad's going to happen. But it just shows how badass fucking Cliff is. Because he's, like, still high, but he knows for a fact that he's going to kill everybody in that house. And that's what I fucking love so much about that character, is that even out of his element, he was able to, like, just, like, Van Damme it and just say, fuck it, I have to be focused. And man, I love that fucking ending, and I love how they treat the fucking Manson family. So I mean, to me, it's just all perfect. Like, and that's the thing, is that when I was watching it, and it was just kind of like they went to the Spine Ranch, and like Manson rolls around the house. And I'm, like, really, really enjoying the film, but also I'm like, man, is this what it's gonna fucking lead up to? Like, that's just so part of me, I thought when I was watching the movie, like, we would hear about the murder. And, like, the movie would just move on. We wouldn't see anything. But it was building up to that. I was like, man, if he does that, I'm gonna be really, really mad. Because there's so many fucking stupid-ass fucking movies about the Manson murders. And, we just had that fucking Haunting of Sharon Tate movie come out, which people trashed. I have it. I have not watched it yet, because I'm kind of, letting Once Upon a Hollywood kind of, like, run my life for the next few months. But even something as simple as, like, the movie, like, Wolves at Your Door that was made a couple years ago. The Annabelle director made it, between Annabelle movies or whatever. Which, I mean, the movie's actually not that bad, but again, it's one of those things that focuses way too much on the killers rather than actual Sharon Tate. And, I know we look at Polanski and he's a piece of shit, but Polanski had nothing to do with any of that. It was, Sharon Tate and her friends, and, we get to watch him murdered. Like, I know the story. I don't mind a true crime, thing, focusing on both, but don't focus on the killers to glorify it and make them scary, because honestly I think they did all that by luck, and just like killers do and home invaders, you catch somebody off guard. And so I really enjoyed the aspect of them just getting fucking butchered and maimed and burnt. That was a good time. Sean probably hasn't seen it because he's too busy watching Scary Stories. I don't think it's going to be... Like, Pulp Fiction shifted, and it's something that Pulp Fiction really doesn't get credit for, or Tarantino. It shifted some movies, the way they're made, and, release tactics, and kind of the aspect of storytelling. Because, I mean, there was a lot of films that came out after that tried to play off a little bit of the Pulp Fiction, but it really did shift films, kind of like how Scream did. It really shifted horror, and Pulp Fiction did that. And I think we've already made that shift, but Once Upon a Hollywood would have been one of those films. If it came out years ago, it would have shifted kind of the direction that he did with Pulp Fiction, I think. Because I love Tarantino's movies. I love Hateful Eight, Django's okay. I love Jackie Brown. Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill, and Jackie Brown. Those are my top three. See, Django's at the bottom of my Tarantino list. And I really like Django, but, I mean, it's one of those that is definitely my least favorite Tarantino flick. Yeah, and what's the fuck up with people saying Death Proof's not very good? Like, I thought we were all like... What is up with this idea? And you know what? I'm not even going to bring it up. But I'm not gonna get into this whole like film. These new film people like trashing stuff. Like I think last year we trashed like Spielberg or something, where everybody's like, "Oh, he's not that great." You know, Scorsese's not that great. And I was like, maybe you shouldn't watch movies anymore. You know, but like it's just it is irritating because it's these new like film people that. You know, it's really funny. Janice and I were watching an episode of The Office the other day, and there's a part where Evan Peters or whatever, the guy that plays like Quicksilver and the other Marvel things, is that Evan Peters? He says he's really into film, and his two favorite films are Citizen Kane and Boondock Saints, and I fucking laughed so hard at that. And I was like, those are film bros. It's exact like The Office actually, like, probably BJ Novak wrote that line, and he was like poking fun at those fucking film people.
When I really discovered what a director does, and that is, I saw Citizen Kane on television for the first time, and I began to become aware of editing and camera positions. And what I guess happened there, of course, is that what he did, Wells, was literally, he was not afraid of being self-conscious with the camera and making self-referential remarks with the camera and literally letting the audience understand, yes, the camera is looking through the floor up into the ceiling. You know, Wells did this, and he did it with such conviction and with such brilliance that you began to realize, I see the camera moves, and I began noticing camera movement because he used that wide-angle lens a great deal. And if you use a wider angle lens and you move quick enough, you see the walls speeding past you, you know. And this is what I think Wells brought to cinema, to American cinema particularly, because up to that time, it was the seamless film, in a way. The hidden camera, the camera that you couldn't tell was there. So Wells was the one to really open up the Pandora's box of cameras flying up in the air. In a funny way, I guess, picking up where silent films left off. The odd thing about the picture, and I've seen it countless times, you know, the enigma of it is Kane itself, Kane himself. You don't know him. You can't get to know him. He's afraid of knowing himself. He's afraid of letting anything out that might be indicative of his feelings, his emotions. And he's not passive, though. He's not passive, but he's got this wall up that, now how many times I've seen the picture, I cannot get, I can't really feel for him as much as I did in the beginning. But in the beginning, when I first saw the film many times, I was feeling more for Orson Welles himself acting in the film. I liked him personally. And
that's exactly what it is. It's like Scorsese's not that good. Scorsese's probably the only fucking filmmaker that hasn't made a bad movie in his entire life. You know? But I'm saying, like, as long as Scorsese's been around and how many films he's made, like, give me a fucking break. Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. The women only had 97 words. The men had 370. What? You actually sat there and did that? Like, you calculated that out? Okay, we're moving on.
Some people believe if we repeat stories often enough, they become real. They make us who we are. That can be scary.
Eat it, Harold.
Do you want to see a haunted house?
Some kids went missing, so they boarded it up.
Okay, we saw it. Should we go now?
Who ordered the chicken?
What's that?
It's a book of scary stories. Tell me a story. Hey, what's going on?
Tommy's missing.
Tommy's name was in the book. There's no way it's actually connected, right? Okay, what if what happens in the book is exactly what's happened for real? Oh my god.
Andy!
Stella!
Listen, you're in the next story. We're reading it right here.
It's a corpse looking for her missing toe.
I'm afraid that we woke something up.
You shouldn't have taken the book.
We've got to stop it.
Sarah Bellows' book, where the stories write themselves and it all comes alive.
The jangling man is coming.
I mean, whoever's said on like social media before, like her and Tarantino have, you know, worked things out. You know, they're pals. Yeah, her daughter's in the movie, and then there's this whole thing of like, well, Uma Thurman doesn't control what, you know, her daughter. Okay, we're moving on. I watched Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Since Sean's not here, I'll bring it up. Yeah, so I think that this is a film that no one's going to be talking about pretty much once it hits physical media. People will talk about it more, obviously, because the people that didn't go to the theater will see it. But this movie will be soon forgotten about. I think we're a little too quick to hype it up, because I think it's one of those things that was, you know, a lot of people that are, you know, love horror. It was in their childhood as far as the books were. And I was really genuinely excited about it too. But upon watching it, the characters are awful. I really don't think there's much of the monsters in it. The monsters don't look very good. The only thing that actually works is Harold, but that's I think the monsters in something like Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark should be the stars, and the people should be kind of not shown as much. Like I feel like that's the main focus that this film should have went. It was kind of surprising too, because of so many people, so many names were attached to it as far as filmmakers, people that I love, you know, like Marcus Dunstan and you know, of course, Del Toro. I was expecting a lot more, I guess, in one sense, but also upon thinking about it, it's just, it feels the monsters are just kind of glossed over, and the execution was just poor as far as a wraparound story. I really think it would have worked better to get multiple directors and Tales from the Crypt it, or just make a bunch of short films and put them together. Sometimes you don't need a wraparound story for something like this, and I think that's probably what they focus too much on, is trying to incorporate all these stories in one world, rather than making it just separate stories with different, even the same filmmaker could have done it, but, you know, standalone. So that way you can focus, you know, you're not following the same characters over and over and over for an hour and a half. You're focusing on just characters for a little bit. That's why shorts work so well, because sometimes it's focused really about that impactful ending rather than kind of like leading up to it. So yeah, there is a documentary. It was actually one of the very first films that I helped acquire to the Wild Eye label, is a simply titled Scary Stories, a documentary about kind of the history of Schwartz and his family, and kind of the legacy that you had, and kind of the impact, speaking to the film community, and also other authors that wrote children's books, and R.L. Stein is a big part of that documentary, which is a lot of fun.
Part of Alvin Schwartz's brilliance was that he took all these old folk legends and made them readable for kids. And I think that's his particular genius.
That book was talked about on the playground.
There's something a little off-putting, but that's why it's so fascinating.
You had to sign up a couple weeks in advance if you wanted to get them.
Everybody knew these stories. And it was always a subject of dares. Like, I dare you to check out the book.
Parents and teachers in a Seattle suburb will vote next week on a plan to ban 3 books from an elementary school library. Those who want to get rid of the books say they're just too gruesome for young readers.
There is a horse that is grotesque, it is misshapen, it is disproportionate, it has a human eye.
Growing up, I never really saw the Scary Stories books in light of them being widely banned. I just saw them as stories that my grandfather collected.
He was the #1 banned book author, and he just loved that.
Children have a need to master the fears that they have in their life.
So they kind of give readers a taste of the darker side of humanity. I always found it interesting that these books were challenged because we don't discourage students from reading Greek mythology or Robin Hood.
I finally got the courage to check out the book myself, carrying it home in my backpack and feeling like it was burning up.
And how much he respected Schwartz, and kind of that inspired him as well to kind of think and write and correct. So, like, one thing that actually works, I think, is honestly the second Goosebumps film. I thought that was wonderfully done. I didn't really care for the first Goosebumps all that much. I thought it was neat. I thought that was a unique spin and a fun spin to incorporate all those stories together. But again, I was really afraid of, like, how are you going to do this? And that's kind of, I think, what the Scary Stories thing kind of fell apart for it. Is they picked... also, the actors aren't very good. Even the comedic relief isn't that great. And it just doesn't work. It really doesn't. And I think it will be soon forgotten about. And it sucks because I really was looking forward to that and kind of hoping. I know people are calling it like a gateway horror, but I don't think it is. I think kids will grasp on to even older films like Gremlins, The Gate, and stuff like that more than they would Scary Stories. Or even something like Insidious, something that's PG-13, or The Conjuring. I think that's the new gateway horror. I don't think it's something like Scary Stories. Scary Stories is for the, I don't know. It feels in the same vein of like those like Jumanji films and things like that. Like it doesn't have kind of the horror element, which is funny because of all the people that are attached to it. We got the people that basically, created the fucking Collector and Saw. That's, writers for Scary Stories. It just doesn't work. Which was very, very upsetting. I am going to give it another shot. But we'll see. But I think the most thing that with the film is, and I've said it on this show a million times, and I'll never ever stop saying it, is that, your film can feel long, your film can be exciting, your film can be slow, but just don't make a boring one. Boring is the worst, and that's what Scary Stories is. It's just boring. Yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Oh, don't tell me you're leaving. The party's just begun.